Hello everybody, I'm Pav Bryan and you're watching a special Ask Pav Team ZF ZF18 edition. So thank you very much to Pete. He's got you guys to ask a load of questions which I'm going to start reading through now. Feel free to continue to ask your questions to me. Happy to support you guys throughout this epic journey and make it all worthwhile. Okay, so we're going to get started. Apologies if I get anyone's name or mispronounce anyone's name. We're going to start with Gaston. Sweet spot seems a little easier than expected. Should I do an FTP test now or wait until the end of 5 weeks? Okay, obviously depends a bit on when the last time you did an FTP test was. I'm a fan of doing it some form of testing every 4 weeks. Doesn't always have to be FTP tests, but in this case I believe it is. FTP will make sure that you're training in the right sweet spot, 88 to 93% of FTP. And yeah, it might, if it feels a little easier than expected, then maybe you're going to be in for an increase in your FTP. However, I would wait, is the honest answer there. Follow the training, and at the end of it, do it again. Again, it really does depend on how long ago you did your FTP test. Okay, so Lisa Sophie. How important is the rest day in between the individual trainings? Great question, really important. Rest is when you're going to recover. You're not going to get good in training. Nobody does. You get good and get faster, you get stronger, more powerful when you recover, and you recover in your rest days. Specifically, mainly sleep is going to be one of the biggest influences on how quickly you recover. That recovery allows your body to rebuild and adapt stronger, and that's where you get that performance boost. So the problem with back-to-back everyday riding, which we're going on to Sally's second here, is that you're just not giving your body enough time to recover. So I'm a massive fan of always giving at least one recovery or easy day, rest day rather, a week. Most of my clients, that's actually probably more like 2. In some cases, that's a bit longer. It's all individual. If you're new to cycling, new to training, then that might be 3. It might even be a bit more. Shorter sessions on easier days might be good, but unless somebody's training to do like 7 days back to back or longer, then there's no reason for me to not give everybody at least 1 rest day a week in my clients. Okay, so Roberto, sweet spot trainers around 90% of FTP. Yeah, agreed. 88 to 94 by Dr. Andy Coggan. But how far do you generally see your heart rate rising? During the last 2 sweet spot training sessions, mine was at 100% functional threshold heart rate, and I kind of struggle. Does it say anything about your current condition? Is my FTP set too ambitious? Yeah, again, it could suggest something about your current condition. It might be that your FTP is set too ambitious. But there's loads of other factors that could influence that. If you're training indoors, which we know you are, that could just be down to heat. Now, I'm working on a program or a protocol to help people acclimate or acclimatise, depending on where you are in the world, to heat, specifically outdoors, but a lot of it, all of the training is conducted indoors, and that's about getting your body to principally sweat quicker. What we found is that without a method of helping your body to cool down, such as a fan, you're likely to struggle and heart rate will rise quicker. So there's not enough information for me to answer that correctly or accurately. So feel free to message me, DM me with a bit more information if you want that. However, what I would say is that your heart rate isn't the primary goal here. I mean, when I'm training and when I'm getting my athletes to train, yes, we're looking at heart rate, and heart rate becomes really good to relate to power over a series of sessions. But actually, while you're doing that session, if I've told you to do 90% FTP for X amount of minutes, just try and do that and crack when you crack, if you're going to. Hopefully you're not going to with a sweet spot training session. Okay, hope that answers that one. Jerry, let's say I did not have a rest day and I start my sweet spot training workout, then I could almost hold the required what? Do I push through the workout knowing that I may still be a bit tired from the previous day, or do I stop and rest and do the workout the next day? Great question. That's a judgment call in terms of coaching. What I would look to do is have a few sessions, maybe a week, couple which are key. They'll be the ones that I would not want you to miss under any circumstance. I want you to get those done. You're going to move everything else out of the way. If you're coached by me one-to-one, I'm going to move it for you. I'm going to move it around your whole life, your kids, your work, whatever. We're going to make sure that you get that, and however many of those, 2 or 3 maximum a week, really, done, no matter what. So in this case, what we would look to do is also have you as fresh as possible for that. Now, for most people, that looks like a rest day the day before. Some people actually become a little bit lethargic, a little bit stale after a rest day, so they might have an easier session leading into their key session. That's all dependent on the individual person. So again, I can't answer that. All I can say is that the sweet spot training workouts are really important to this, so you should make sure that you go into them as close to as 100% as possible so that you can get the most from the session. So again, hope that answers that one. Okay, Sally, another question. I have FTP in my Garmin from outside actual rides, which has a difference of more than plus 100 of what is in Zwift. Is that possible? Yes, it's a very common thing for you to have 2 different FTP values, one for indoors, one for outdoors. I don't think there's anything scientific about that particularly. I think probably that's a lot of mentality involved in that, motivation and flex about the bike and stuff like that. 100 though sounds incredibly large. So I would have to pose the question back, is that Zwift's pretty good at determining your FTP. I'm not sure about how good Garmin is. Garmin, from my experience, has some really funny algorithms, so I'm not sure. Have you inputted both of those into your Garmin and Zwift? How have you worked those out? Because if you could just do an FTP test outdoors and one indoors, I mean, it doesn't even need to be an FTP test. You could actually do a relatively shorter test and work out your FTP based on that, or work out a difference, maybe as a percentage. Go out and do 1 minute indoors, 1 minute outdoors, maximum you can sustain, or maximum for a certain heart rate, X amount of things you could do with this, work out the difference, and then that's a good guide as to what your difference in your FTP might be. 100, now I don't know you, but let's just say, for example, your FTP on Zwift is 200, and you're saying that your Garmin is plus 100, that would make your outdoor 300, or 50% more. I've never heard of anything like that, so I would say there's a technological problem going on there. Not 100% of that. I would ask a few questions about how that is. Okay, so second question from Sally. I know we are supposed to have rest days, but during the cycling season, which is inside due to winter weather, I cycle back to back some days. I see some folks ride multiple times in one day, where some are even races. Thoughts on this? Isn't it a matter of know your body? Yeah, exactly, know your body. A coach will know fairly easily from your workout data exactly how many days you're capable of training. You can relate that to training stress score on Training Peaks, which is a good measure of how much training you can do quantitative wise in a week, and you can even track back and see where your best performances are when you're getting sick, if you're repeatedly getting sick or injured, and work out even an average over the course of the whole last season. And yeah, we'd always strive to maybe increase that over time, but it's one of those things which is going to be a bit constant. Yeah, big fan of multiple rides in one day if you're trying to get a lot done. tends to be the athletes that train at a high level that can do that. It's got to be a lot of recovery involved. Triathletes or multi-sport athletes obviously got to be good at this because they're training for more than one discipline. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's a matter of your own body, because I know people, like I was saying earlier, that maybe start training at 3 times a week, not 3 times a day. So it's again, we've got to talk about quality as well. It's all very well doing 3 rides or 3 training sessions a day, but if they're just riding around, I mean, 2 of those could be a commute, and you could just be ambling to and from. So yes, know what's right for your body. Listen to your body. You can use stuff like, I like HRV for training. It's a little app, measures your the variability in your heart rate every morning, builds up over a period of time a load of data, which then can give you an indication of when you need to have an easy day or a rest day. Check that out. It's a really good free app. Okay, Darren. Rest days seem to be an issue for all. Same for me. I generally ride 300 plus per week, presuming that's TSS. But if I'm to follow just the ZF18 program, I will be well down. Comments. Yeah. Okay. So if you're used to doing more, do more, because what you will get is if you're doing less with this program, you might go backwards. You will get reversibility, and that happens when you're not doing enough. Detraining, undertraining are other synonyms for that. So yeah, add something to it. You've just got to ask yourself what it is you're aiming to achieve, and then go along with that. Plan your sessions accordingly to that. Again, like I said to Jerry's comment earlier, if you've got a key session or 2 in a week, plan around those so that you're going to get the most from those. Darren's second question: I normally ride fasted in the mornings, except I need a coffee. It's absolutely fine as long as there's no milk or sugar in it. That's an opinion, I guess. But my performance is almost always worse when I ride in the afternoon. So am I really burning more calories in the morning on a less than optimal effort, or am I better off having a breakfast carb and smashing it? Great question, probably one of the best questions, coming from a really interesting point, which is very hard to prove which is right. Because indeed, if you were to give someone an FTP test in the morning without breakfast, they will be substantially lower than if you gave them an FTP test after fueling normally. Some people actually have an incredibly big swing, even if you were to give them some food in the morning. Some people always respond better in the afternoons. Again, you look at your personal life about this, because if you're somebody that struggles with mornings or gets tired in the evenings, then it's an indication of where you're going to perform better. If you're not a morning person, doing stuff in the morning, you're probably not going to get the same quality as the afternoon, and vice versa. So what we're talking about here though is you shouldn't really at a low intensity see too much difference. There's possibly something going on here. If you're just doing like a zone 2 low easy workout, you should maybe struggle, but you should still be able to achieve the same power output. It's only when you start to increase that and you do maybe sweet spot or even a bit below sweet spot where you're going to struggle. Now, if we're talking about doing fasted rides, there is an argument for doing fasted or glycogen depleted high intensity workouts. However, what we're talking about here is burning fat. You're probably better off keeping that low intensity, and therefore, the way the theory works is you'll always burn the same amount of fat. You have 2 thresholds, fat burning threshold, and then the point at which carbs start to come in, and then the other one where it's predominantly all carbs. You're always pretty much burning the same amount of fat. Once you get up to a certain point, if your fat and your carbs kick in, that fat doesn't drop off. You're always burning that amount. So if we're talking about burning fat, then there's always that certain amount. And if we're talking about performance value, where you're really forcing more out of your body, then we are talking about a totally different subject, and can be, as I'm already getting there, a bit confusing. My opinion is that Yes, you can do the higher intensity workouts fasted, but if you're not going to get that quality from them, for example, if you're not going to just burn enough calories, and you can work it out basically. You've got a power meter that accurately reads it. You can work out how much effort you put into that. If it's substantially less in the morning, then you're not going to get as much as just keeping that steady, an easier session. So it's one of those, again, some people, if you're really good in the mornings, you can get up and smash it, great. If not, then don't worry about it. The other thing as well, some people feel better throughout the day afterwards. It's one of the crucial things about doing that. If you're not recovering, if you're not allowing that to come back in, particularly if you're doing glycogen depleted, which is a fasted but high intensity, emptying your glycogen stores, you need to replenish those. Example is, if you were to do a 25-mile time trial at about, let's say, an hour, it can take 2 days for you to recover or replenish the glycogen stores in your body. So that's another reason why it could be that you're struggling more, is because you're not actually allowing your body to refuel. You've got to allow that to happen, otherwise you're just gonna really, really struggle. Anyway, I could talk an hour, I'd talk more than an hour on this subject, and we could all just sort of discuss the points on this. Hopefully I've covered enough to make that worthwhile. Okay, Pete, great question from Pete. Would you suggest adding the DPC core and leg strength plans into this training? If so, how frequent, and then workout or non-workout days? Yeah, great question. Yes, core and leg strength workout plans, add them in. Sessions, two sessions a week, maybe 2 1-hour sessions. If you can fit that in, half an hour, 2 1.5 hour sessions, are also very good. As long as you keep at least 1 rest day, that's fine. The principle I like is that if you're going to do a double session, so for example 1 bike, 1 strength in a day, is do the strengthen the bike as far away as possible. Bike's almost always better off in the morning, just because of that, the way most of our bodies work. Okay, Gaston, another question. I'm actually really keen to know what I should add to my plan, as I'm training for 160 kilometer Boral, I think that's what it says, classic ride. I don't know the event. I would have to research the event. I mean, I could tell you what you need to do to ride 160 kilometers, but is that hilly, flat? Is there a lot of people? Is it a non-drafting event? There's loads of things. If you're really keen to know what you would want to add to a plan, you can contact me and we can discuss coaching. But if you want to do it on your own, just consider the demands of that event. So I've given you a few there. First is that you need to ride 160 kilometers. That's you need that base endurance. You also need the flexibility, which comes from comfort on the bike. You don't have to stop and stretch your back out all the time. Again, is it a group? I presume group ride. Therefore, you need to learn to ride in a group. Is it hilly? So you need to do hills. So I'm giving you a lot of things which you'll be able to take away and hopefully draw yourself up a plan on what you need to be able to do to ride that ride. If not, if you want some help or some coaching, please get in contact. Couple of last questions from Lisa Sophie. I experience very uncomfortable heart rates at 2-minute max RPM efforts in zone 2, resulting in cadence drops and very slow recovery. Is there anything I can do about that? Wattage and cadence output seems to be fine, just the HR is in the red. That's interesting. Basically what your heart rate rising during a cadence-based session where the power is low is simply that your body is not used to that sort of training. So it's a very hard one. It's a very interesting question. It should get better with time. All things do. I don't think there's any underlying problem that you should be worried about. It's just about training it up. If 2-minute max RPM effort is too hard, break that down into 15 seconds and build up from there. I mean, certainly if 2-minute max and you're struggling, your heart rate shoots up too much, it's probably too long for you. Drop that down 15 seconds, get that sorted so you can do 15 seconds really well. I can only imagine if your heart rate is getting that high, your probably upper body is moving around too much, at which point you need to reduce that down anyway. So it's all about control more than anything. So with control, your heart rate shouldn't rise too much, and you should see some sort of adaptation that with a bit of training on a high RPM you'll get used to, and your heart rate won't rise as much. Hope that helps. And last one, what about aching muscles? We have the word musculcator, by the way, I hope I said that right, I'm not sure if I did. Does it mean that the training was good, intense enough for causing change, or is it simply the recovery not good enough? Too little assistance with protein shakes, etc. Great question. So we're talking about DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, which is a phenomenon that which occurs usually a day or two after you've done strength training. Now it can occur in bike or any training whereby, in my experience, your recovery isn't quite quick enough or isn't quite as effective enough. So I am a massive fan of getting in more protein. I usually tell people 20 to 30% of their daily intake and their calorific intake should be from protein. For doing the fat burning stuff at the moment, that might be a little bit more. Again, plants are a great source of micronutrients, so you want to flood your body full of those in order to help your body. Like, try and think of it like your macronutrients are your fat, your protein, and your carbohydrate. They're your fuel, and your plants and some grains provide the micronutrients, which is your oil. So if you have a Ferrari and you fill it with the nicest petrol it can go, the nicest fuel, but you don't give it any oil, it's still going to break down. Your body's exactly the same. You can give it all the nicest protein, healthiest fats, and the greatest carbohydrates. If you're not providing it with any like micronutrition, phytochemicals from plants, then you're going to struggle as well. So that's what I would do. Check out my website. You can have a look at my ultimate recovery guide as well. There's some great tips in there. Again, I could speak for hours on recovery. In fact, I do a seminar on recovery. And that brings us to a close. So that is the first ever Team ZF18 Ask Pav interview, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to Pete, absolute legend, mate. I'm really pleased to be involved in this, and if there's anything else I can do, guys, please let me know, and ride on.